Myoho Renge Kyo. Namo Myoho Renge Kyo, Namo Myoho Renge Kyo, Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. Hi, friends. I hope this finds you in good health, secure. Thank you for your practice. Thank you for your support. This resource wouldn't be possible without all your participation. Just a reminder, all links in the description. Yesterday, in part one, I don't know that I called it part one, but I started this discussion on the middle way. And one of the things that features prominently in the middle way is the dependent origination, and what I define as personal identity, whatever that is, right? So today we're going to read that second part of this definition in our Buddhism Reference book, which I highly recommend you keep a copy of as at your altar, so that whenever you're reading Gosho or wherever you study, you can have ready access to. This happened all the time and still to this day, when I'll read a Gosho or some treatment, and a word I see all the time or a term I see all the time will suddenly strike me as I don't know if I fully understand what that means. And it doesn't take much, a few sentences, a paragraph, maybe a little history. Oh, I get it now. And it really, really helps to have a reference like that so that you can ingest your own insight or deepen your insight. You know what I mean? Sometimes we superficially know a word or think we know a word, and then when we research it a little further, the depth of the meaning of that word suddenly opens up a whole realm, if you will, of understanding of everywhere where that word appears. So dependent origination and personal identity. It describes the existence of phenomena as coming about due to various causes and conditions. When one of these causes changes or disappears, the resulting object or phenomena will also change or disappear, not unlike what I was just saying about the meaning of words and terms, as will the objects or phenomena depending on the changing object or phenomena. Thus, there is nothing with an eternal self, essence, or Atman. There are only mutually dependent origination and existence, hence, the middle doctrine avoids an eternal substance or being. Do you understand? So, if you look up in this book, The Engine of Life, which I talk about all the time, this migration from energy at rest, quiescent energy, all right, is all potential. And then some mild, some violent, some whatever disturbance, something agitates that quiescence. That is immediately in, and if you look the definition of moment up, you'll see how infinitely small a unit of time that is. There is suddenly in that quiescent energy other. How to define it with words? If something is in one state and then something in that state is agitated, the only way you can determine the agitation is that there are now more than one state. that energy is not only now in rest, but it is in unrest. That is the spark, the beginning of a whole chain reaction, right? And that chain reaction can die back out, or that chain reaction can be enough energy put to motion, put to formation. Why do we call it formation? The word form is in it, right? We're trying to locate, or circumlocute, if you will, this change of state, right? Like water to a gas, or water vapor to ice. These are change of states, right? Phases. So energy goes through these same things and becomes a photon of light. How does a photon, a quanta of light, which is energy, form? Well, obviously, there's a transition from no form to form, so we call that formation. That's the engine of life, because all that we know, from planets and galaxies and the entire cosmos to the smallest unit particle, or the particle of particles, a particle itself is a collection, an amalgam of energies in different state. An electron is energy, and it has certain characteristics, just as a proton, a neutron, a neutrino, on and on and on. These are all definitions of certain states of energy, and we give it a name because we identify it as a form. But how did that form come to be? Well, through formation. This entire cosmos, in its initial plasma, slowly in its expansion, was able to release heat at some point in the form of photons, right? That's what the the background, cosmic background radiation, right? The CMB, the cosmic microwave background, CMB, finally said it. Everything works this way. So, why do I say all of this? Because nothing in and of itself, as Shakyamuni says, just came to be. It's the result of all these innumerable interactions, amalgamations, right? And now with quantum, we're talking about quantum fields, right? So electrons can appear anywhere in the cosmos because the field means that they are everywhere at once, but only instantiate from potential, which is everywhere at once, potential. When the conditions and the tendencies in specific particular spots in that huge space are ideal for it. Karma. It's so amazing to me that Shakyamuni Buddha, almost 3,000 years ago, saw this intuitively. That's the kind of vision I want to have. That's Buddhahood. So, however, the absence of an Atman does not mean there is nothing at all, right? Hence, the middle doctrine avoids nihilism. Because obviously there is stuff. That's not the problem. The stuff isn't the problem. It's our samsaric mind wanting to crave and cling and hang on to moments of time as though they persist. They do not. It's moment to moment to moment to moment to moment. Time is a momentary instantiation, right? It's a locus of points. If you'll remember your geometry. So it's not that there isn't anything, it's just that our seizing upon it, obsessing upon it, is the source of all our suffering. Therefore, according to Rupert Gethin, the middle, quote-unquote, doctrine of early Buddhism, when applied to the question of personal identity, is closely connected with the Buddhist understanding of causality and with the doctrine of a not-self, anatta. The connection between dependent origination and personal identity is explored in this sutra. A monk asks the Buddha the following question regarding the 12 links of dependent origination. Remember the Nidana, right? What now is aging and death? And for whom is there this aging and death? Right? This guy saying, well, if everything's moment to moment, then what is aging if not a change to something linear? And then the end of that. So here's the response. Not a valid question. The meritorious one replied, Bhikkhu, whether one says, what now is aging and death, and for whom is there this aging and death, or whether one says aging and death is one thing, and one for whom there is this aging and death is another, both these assertions are identical in meaning. They differ only in the phrasing. If there is the view, the soul and the body are the same, there is no living of the holy life. And if there is this view, the soul is one thing, the body is another, there is no living of the holy life. Without veering towards either of these extremes, the Tathagata teaches the Dhamma by the middle, the birth as condition, aging and death. That's not super clear, is it? Because this is a translation of ancient language. Let's read on and see if it gets any clearer. Another passage which discusses personal identity with regard to the middle teaching is found in the with a Chinese parallel at say 300. This sutra outlines two further extremes views with regards to personal identity and karma. One, the person who does the deed experiences the result. This is one extreme. And one who does the deed and the other experiences the result. This is the second extreme. The Tibarukat Sutra outlines a similar set of two extremes regarding personality. Suppose that the feeling and the one who feels it are the same. Then, for one who has existed since the beginning, pleasure and pain is made by oneself. I don't say this. Suppose that the feeling is one thing and the one who feels it is another. Then, for one stricken by feeling, pleasure and pain is made by another. I don't say this. Avoiding these two extremes, the realized one teaches by the middle way. Ignorance is a condition for choices. Well, that's interesting. This discourse then states that the Buddha teaches by the middle and outlines the 12 elements of dependent origination. Gethin states that for early Buddhism, personal continuity is explained through the particular way that various phenomena which may make up a sentient being are causally connected. According to, this is what I call the karmic freight train, right? According to Gethin, this middle teaching sees a person as subsisting in the causal connectedness of dependent arising. Therefore, thinking that there is something unchanging and constant in a person is eternalistic, while thinking that there is no real connection between the same person at different points at the same time, in this time, is annihilationism. As Gethin writes, in other words, if we deny that there is a real connectedness between events, this is annihilationism. But if we understand that connectedness in terms of an unchanging self, this is eternalism. The middle way is that there is only the connectedness. There is only dependent arising. Dependent origination also gives a rationale for rebirth. Conditioned arising is a middle way, which avoids the extremes of eternalism and annihilationism, the survival of an eternal self, or the total annihilation of a person at death. So, how do we make sense of all of that? That's kind of a clinical, and at some point, as I wrote this Buddhism Reference book, I had to decide, okay, this is the entrance to a rabbit hole. And I could go on and then write an entire book on this one theme, which I've done. If you get the book, I think it's now called Independent Nichiren Scholarship or Practice of Lotus Sutra, Shakyamuni's Lotus Sutra Buddhism. It's a long title. It used to be the Big Book or Big Book of Buddhism, but now it's more focused, because it always was really, on Nichiren's doctrine, but it covers the entire Lotus Sutra Buddhism scholarship. I break it down, and I have several resources that I've used from Nicholas Evola is his last name. I love that book, A Doctrine of Awakening. It's about he really digs into the Nidana. It's about the earlier teachings. It's a fabulous book. And many others, of course. But, this dependent origination thing gradually evolves through Shakyamuni's teachings, and the way that modern Buddhists or modern practitioners, especially Nichiren doctrine practitioners, will be familiar with the 3,000 realms, and I have books and videos on that subject as well. And the 3,000 realms is really just an evolution of the understanding of the 12-link causal chain, the dependent origination, the Nidana, by any of its names, is trying to explain in language, as fallible as that is, the actual mechanism of life. It's important to understand this, not because we have to all be research scientists in Buddhism, but the more you study these subjects, the more insights you have in your own experience of life. And Buddhism is all about the experience of life, right? Not the stuffness, the thingness of life, but the experience of life. It's our obsession with thingness that conditions our mind toward samsara, because the moment we start to objectify our experience, then we cling to it, and we crave more or less of it. And this is the realm where we stress out, where we have anxiety, where we feel pain, right? This is the example that Shakyamuni was talking about when he's talking about, are feelings a thing? And are those things called feelings imposed upon you, something other than thing? Or do you invent those things and cling to them? Where's the truth here? On one end, it's endless. On the other, it's immolating. And so Buddhism doesn't deal with those extremes because that's samsara. Buddhism looks right down the middle, so to speak, languagely, right? If I can make up a word, and says, look, somewhere in the middle here is the perception that stuff is constantly happening, that potential is manifesting, and those instantiations don't happen in a vacuum. They happen with billions and billions and innumerable other things happening together at the same time. Blah, 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 like a sparkler, right? And so how can all of those things happening not also influence the other things happening and be influenced by the other things happening? That mix, that interaction, that is life. That is real. That is what is happening. And if you want to identify that as what is, slippery language, but if you understand that is a verb, because nothing is static, you see? Everything is constantly being influenced and influencing. So everything is constantly in a state of conditioned genesis, right? Interdependent origination. Because origination, moment to moment to moment to moment, is always a confluence of everything happening. Life is a verb. It's such a mind-altering perception. And yet that's why we're Buddhists, to attain that. Because to be in that mind state, it sloughs off all of this samsaric stress and anxiety, because it just doesn't fit there. It's not even that it doesn't belong. It's not real. It suddenly just sloughs away and it goes away, and then you're completely involved, engrossed in life. Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. Thank you for listening. Thank you for your study. Thank you for your practice. None of this would be possible without your support. You know the whole diatribe. Please like and subscribe. It helps us. It's a Bodhisattva act. If you can, help us through the purchase of ebooks, books, patrons on Patreon, PayPal. You guys, without you guys, I couldn't do all this. And at the same time, lots of free stuff, right? I don't want to have to charge for everything just so I can keep going. Free podcasts, free videos, the website, all free stuff, lots of information there. For yourself, all of this is about encouraging and building our confidence, right? For resolve, Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. Yes, I get it. But it's also tools to help you communicate with others. I have countless graphs and presentations and stuff you can print out as little helpful tools, or make your own, modify them. Or as I've suggested in the past, have a viewing party, right? Watch one of these videos with a friend or a couple of friends or whatever. Have your own, structure your own little meeting, and then you can discuss what I've brought up, and share your insights. Make this a living, breathing practice for yourself, but at the same time, helping others. That's what propagation is about. It's not just about telling others. It's about building our own confidence. And nothing builds confidence like friendships, shared ideas, insights born of others sharing insights, right? So I thank you again. Please take care of your health. It's become more and more of a challenge of late, hasn't it? Take care of yourself and keep studying. Keep your practice strong. I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.